As a child, my mom and I had this nightly routine as I would get ready for bed. As I was brushing my teeth, I would beg her to tell me this joke. It was always the same one that I wanted to hear, and it was really simple. It went like this, and you're welcome to shout out the answer if you know it. Pete and Repeat were walking on a bridge. Pete fell off, who was left? Pete and Repeat were walking on a bridge. Pete fell off, who was left? You get it, yeah. Yeah, as a little girl, I just thought that was hysterical, and she would tell it over and over and over until I got tired. And once my giggling subsided, I would crawl into bed and we would read together. One of my favorite books as a little girl was The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I loved that book as a little girl because Mary, the hero, is a 10-year-old who finds magic in her new home and discovers the key to a garden that's been locked for 10 years. As we read, I could see the images of the brown robin and the English manor and the lush green ivy on the walls of the secret garden. It tells the story of the power of nature and friendship, belief in oneself, and positive thinking, themes that still resonate with me today. As we read, I would practice my vocabulary and my pronunciation, and when I got tired, my mom would read to me. I would fall into a blissful sleep. You know that kind of sleep where you wake up feeling energized and alive, like you can take on the world? But so many people don't get that kind of sleep. They either have trouble falling asleep or they wake up in the night tossing and turning. There is nothing worse than laying in bed thinking about sleep when you can't sleep. According to the Center for Disease Control, about 1 in 3 adults have trouble sleeping. About 80 million people report that they don't get the recommended amount of sleep each night. As a board-certified health coach, one of the questions I ask my clients early on is, how is your sleep? Because long-term poor sleep has been associated with chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and cognitive issues like Alzheimer's. I recently had a client that was trying to lose weight, and when I asked them about their sleep, they said that they get about 4 hours of good sleep, and the other 2 hours that they're in bed, they toss and turn. We talked about their daily habits, and I made some suggestions, which you'll hear in a few minutes. They picked 2 that they felt they could do easily, and within a short amount of time, their sleep improved. I believe that sleep is the foundation for good health. Nearly every organ and body function benefits with adequate sleep by restoring and refreshing. For instance, our brain during the day uses nutrients that lead to waste, and these need to be gotten rid of, and this primarily happens when we sleep. Studies show that when this doesn't happen, it can lead to real cognitive issues like dementia. Sleep is so important that the American Heart Association has now added it to its list of the essential 8. And these are the key measures that help you maintain and improve your cardiovascular health. Sleep is a necessity. It's recommended that we get 7 to 9 hours a night, so if you think about it, that's a third of your day, and that's a third of your lifetime. So if you live to 90, you'll spend 30 years of that sleeping. But if you're one of those 80 million people who struggle to get good sleep or toss and turn at night, you're desperate. You're at your wit's end. You've tried everything, right? You've tried sleeping pills and sleeping masks and chamomile tea and maybe even alcohol. Anything to get that elusive sleep to grace you. But what if there's a better way? What if there's something that we can do that can improve our sleep naturally? I'm going to share some studies that have pondered that exact question, and the research shows that there are simple but profound solutions. Researchers at Harvard and Brigham and Women's Hospital have studied the effects of blue light from electronic devices, and They had participants use e-readers and printed books. And what they found was that when they were using the e-readers, their bodies produced less melatonin, which is the hormone that we make naturally that helps us feel tired. It also shifted their circadian rhythms, which is our body's biological clock that tells us when to wake and when to go to sleep. It took them longer to fall asleep, and they didn't have as good sleep as compared to when they read printed books. And researchers at the University of Michigan had college students take an 8-week online sleep education program called Sleep to Stay Awake. And they found with this targeted sleep education, not only did their sleeping improve, their depression scores were lowered as well. So, what do these studies lead us to, and what do these different studies help us understand? The answer lies in the story I told you at the beginning of my mom and I reading together. That ritual helped me fall asleep and stay asleep. And as a result, I've had a relatively healthy relationship with sleep most of my life. But I'm not immune to bad sleep. It does happen, or I wake up in the night and I have a hard time falling asleep. I call that getting on the hamster wheel, when you're stressed because you can't sleep and then you can't sleep because you're stressed. And in a little bit, I'll tell you what my trick is now. I became a health coach because I've always had an intrinsic desire to help people. And I noticed that when I was eating nourishing food and moving more and really taking care of myself, I felt like my best self. I enjoy helping others now feel like their best self because I believe that when we feel good, we are happier and kinder. And as I was doing my research and I dove deeper into the work, I realized that sleep is not a pillar of health. It's the foundation. It's the foundation for our mood, our energy, our overall well-being. When our sleep improves, everything else in our life improves. So, how do we get good sleep? Well, as the research shows, everything we do all day long has a huge impact on our sleep, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed. Whether you have caffeine and how much you exercise and the blue light you're exposed to. So what all this means is that good sleep is not the result of how we spend our nights. It's the result of how we spend our days. Good sleep comes from good habits all day long. And we call that sleep hygiene. It's habits and behaviors and even our mindset around sleep, which can be productive and give us a good night's sleep, or can be detrimental and really wreak havoc on our sleep. So as I share these tips, I want you to think about it like standing at the beginning of a buffet line. You're not going to eat everything on the buffet, at least I hope you're not going to eat everything on the buffet. And I do not want you to try to do all of these tips that I'm going to give you. The problem with that is you risk feeling overwhelmed and giving up completely, and you might not know which ones work or don't work. So I suggest you pick 1 or 2 to start with for a month, see how that works. If those don't work, try another 1 or 2. Think of it like trial and error. And be really curious about what can work for you. We're all different, so what works for me might not work for you. So, you should also be very patient with yourself. It's, on average, takes us 10 to 20 minutes to fall asleep at night, and it's perfectly normal to wake up in the middle of the night to change positions or go to the bathroom. So for me, there are times when I'll get up to go to the bathroom and I get back in bed and I start thinking and getting on that hamster wheel. And I do a breathing technique to help me relax and fall back asleep. It's really simple. So I count to 10 and I inhale on the odds and I exhale on the evens. So I inhale on 1 and I exhale on 2 and I inhale on 3 and I exhale on 4 and so on until I get to 10, and then I start over. And if I find that thoughts or worries or stress is coming in on my ability to try to sleep, I just think about it like a hallway and I try to put them behind the doors. Sometimes I think about the numbers coming towards me or moving away from me, or their colors or their patterns, anything that I can to just stay focused on my breathing. So my first tip to improve your sleep is consistency. Consistency in your wake time and your sleep time. So this might sound familiar. You're good about going to bed and getting up around the same time for work and school, Monday through Friday. But then Friday and Saturday night, you want to stay up, or Saturday and Sunday morning, you want to sleep in. The problem with this is that our brain that loves routine doesn't know which one it's supposed to be on, and our sleep suffers. So as much as you can, try to go to bed and get up within 30 minutes to an hour, 7 days a week. My second tip is to get morning sunlight in your eyes, because this starts our circadian rhythm, that biological clock, and it starts building sleep pressure for the day. My third tip is to examine your bedtime routine. Think about it like landing a plane. You can't land a plane instantly. You have to decrease speed and altitude gradually. Going to sleep is the same way. You have to unwind. You can't just go, go, go all day long, jump into bed, and expect to fall asleep like a light switch. We don't work that way. Also, having a consistent routine every night signals to your brain that sleep is coming next. So what can you do to fall asleep each night? What sounds appealing? For some people, it's taking a shower or a bath. Some people like to pray or meditate. Other people write in a gratitude journal or listen to calming music. For me, I like to read a book. So think about what you can do that you could look forward to every day to unwind. My fourth tip is, as you're looking at that bedtime routine, consider your use of electronic devices. As the studies show, it really does impact our sleep. It's recommended to put them down about 30 minutes to an hour before you go to sleep, and there's a trend right now called a digital sunset, where people put down their devices when the sun goes down. Now, if that sounds too drastic, there's options. You can use blue light blocking glasses. You could put your device on night mode. You can also get a filter on your prescription lenses from your eye doctor. So to recap, we've got a consistent sleep schedule, a bedtime routine, morning light, and reducing electronic devices. And my fifth and final tip comes from a study that I'm doing with Tulane University. It is a behavior study around mindset and hypertension, and I want you to think about what your own mindset is around sleep. And our health coaches are using a process called immunity to change, where we examine hidden beliefs that are holding people back. And what we found is if we can shift that just a little bit and uncover some of these big assumptions, we can actually make lasting change in their behaviors. So for example, if your mindset around sleep is, my sleep sucks, I can't get better sleep, I've tried, there's nothing I can do, that thought is acting like a roadblock that's keeping you stuck. So consider shifting it just a little bit, and you might be surprised at the change. So my challenge for you is, if you are one of those people and that is your mindset, consider saying something like, I think I can change my sleep, or I'm working to improve my sleep. Just that little shift might be what you need to get you moving in the right direction. I see mindsets change all the time, so I know it can happen. My client that was trying to lose weight, when they shifted their mindset, the two behaviors they picked to change were to get morning light. They have a dog that they like to walk in the morning, and they also used blue light blocking glasses. Not only did their sleep improve, but the weight came off too. So think about what you do during the day and how that really impacts your sleep. Because if you're only thinking about your sleep when you go to bed at night, you're missing out on a powerful opportunity to improve your health. It's not just what happens at night, it's what happens during the day. So that story of my mom and I reading together came full circle about a decade ago, when she had an accident and went into a coma. And as she lay in the hospital, we wanted her to feel peaceful, so I got a copy of our beloved story and read to her in the days that led to her passing. I believe it helped her feel peaceful and calm, supported and loved. And isn't that the essence of what good sleep gives us? It's our foundation. to feel supported and nurtured and grounded and prepare us for whatever comes next. So, as you wind down tonight, I want you to really think about this. You spend a third of your life asleep, and that third, it's not just downtime. It's the foundation for your energy, your vitality, and your well-being. Your sleep is the anchor that holds your life steady. So I invite you to make this big investment in your health. Take what you've learned today and start showing up for your sleep. Because when you do, you're showing up for your health, your happiness, and your life. And when your sleep improves, everything else in your life improves. Sweet dreams. Thank you.